Greetings everyone, Coinstamp 180 here, and welcome back to this morning's double feature. This time, some more Elden Ring Reforged. Now you might be asking yourselves, why am I on the title screen? Again, well, if you'll notice under this G here, there's a little version number. It's kind of difficult to read from, just from this, or it might be difficult, I don't know. I only have the OBS output to look at here, but it says 0.4.58, so you know exactly which one we're looking at. And last time, I believe we left off at the village of the Albinorics, on which I believe I said we weren't exactly sure of what we needed to do in order to kill the Omen Killer. That's kind of where we ended off on. So I intend to correct that today, and we're going to start by changing fortunes. We're going to try the Wizard Fortune, even though it only has projectiles that the Omen Killer can dodge. We can force it to do... We can manipulate its behavior if we know what we're looking for. And we want very specific spells in this regard as well. It's susceptible to pretty much everything but madness. I believe it's madness, sleep... No, it is susceptible to madness. There were stats on this. Speaking of which, a great resource is a boss spreadsheet, which we have available here. If we type an exclamation mark ERRB, all lowercase, no spaces, that'll bring you to the boss document. Fairly sure this Whisper doc is supposed to be up here. So now what we're going to do is go over to our bosses, and we're going to find the Omen Killer again. And the Omen Killer is right here. We'll highlight his row. Let's review what we know. 15 defense, 85 poise, so the guy's kind of a heavy hitter, but not woefully unexpected. Pretty much takes all kinds of standard physical damage types. In terms of the damage types here, magic and lightning are fine. Fire and holy, not so much. And then, okay, he is vulnerable to all status effects. However, he is most specifically vulnerable to blood loss, sleep, and frostbite. Well, we don't really have good methods for inflicting blood loss, and we don't have a viable method of inflicting sleep as a caster. We just don't. So, and we're going to be using NPC summons. So because of this, our best course of action is going to be to prepare spells that call into question the Omen Killer's ability to manipulate their position. We probably want Glintstone Pebble, Magic Glint Blade, and Rancor Call. And basically, what we're going to do with these three spells is to sort of restrict where the Omen Killer can go. We're going to try those spells before moving on, which actually affords us some kind of room in order to buff our throughput or our health if necessary. We don't have a whole bunch of health to use for this fight, so we will have to be kind of careful. The Omen Killer does have the Flame Drake Talisman, so before we buff our throughput, we are going to buff our defenses so the fire doesn't punch us quite as hard. Then after that, we are... Yep, this is pretty reasonable scaling. And we're gonna go from there. How's everyone doing on this fine crack of dawn, I suppose? Hopefully all right. I wish I could say that it's going better for me, but I don't normally do these sorts of double features. But the fact of the matter is that this double feature is my way of making up my way of making up you know, my why did that untarget? And hopefully I want to get through here without too many issues. Which seems fine as long as we don't spend our FP inefficiently. Although already we are having problems. This Albinoric is kind of annoying. How is everyone coming along on their Elden Ring journey? For Elden Ring Reforged, and I suppose this is a good time to act as a sort of refresher. Elden Ring Reforged is a mod designed by Kernifer that's on Nexus Mods. And it sort of acts as a middleweight overhaul mod of the entire game. With everything except for lore, story, and graphics. With plenty of quality of life features. If you wanted to deflect or duck, or have access to faster spellcasting or more efficient spellcasting, this is the mod for you. If you want to know more, you can type in ERR or ERRA. If you want to know more information or be taken to the mod page for downloading, I will say you can only get this mod on PC. So if you are playing on console, console users beware. I don't even think there would even be a mod that could fit the restrictions of either of the current gen consoles. This wouldn't fit in those restrictions. It'd have to be limited to like a single script or a single texture or a group of those things together. Good, and now that I know it only takes 2 of those, that's what we're gonna do. And yeah, summoning help is just a good idea on Omen Killer. We need ways to discount the attention somehow. Where is there a third one? I know there was a third one somewhere. I don't think it behind the tree. Alright, I guess. I just didn't spot it. The thing about Elden Ring is that it does have these sneaky mobs that... Is that a... That can't be another summon. I was about to say, this feels like, Herba or something, and it was. But we're gonna try this again. Hopefully this isn't just a case of, bad luck, or, we get it on the first time. I'm gonna be hella upset. Even though I'd be really happy to get it on my first new try. I would feel very bad if we went a week without playing Elden Ring, and suddenly this is how we defeat the boss. Oh, and I didn't rearrange my flasks either. Very, very close. We need to find where that third dog is, because otherwise that will just kill us. That is how we do it, though. We overwhelm him with the sheer numbers of our spells. You see what I mean? Sometimes you just don't have the time to apply dots. A very good example of a fight in which we're not going to be able to apply our warlock stuff. Our typical dots are going to be, not Horaloo. Who am I thinking of? Malekith. Where Malekith is going to be moving around a whole bunch, and we're not going to really be able, we're not going to be able, to apply dots to him, not in the usual sense. And because we're not really able to do that in the traditional sense when fighting Malekith, we will have to use another set of spells, another set of fortunes. Granted, have we gone anywhere near Malekith yet? No, we haven't. However, he's worth talking about. He's worth talking about because he's a very prominent and well-known boss. Where is this third dog? I see two of them. And thankfully the magic blades have a seriously underestimated reach in Elden Ring Reforged. We're going to wait. Yeah, they have a seriously underestimated reach that should not be ignored. It's just too bad that It's just too bad that you can't get caught up in casting them. They are a pretty efficient spell for what they do, however. Where is... I need to find this dog before he becomes a problem. And I think that dog might be behind the tree. That's why he's always so unexpected. That would be my best guess at why there are issues with the dog in combat. Okay, there's the frostbite. Let's find this dog. Very unfortunate. Okay. Didn't get as far that time, but can't be helped. That's what happens when you shift your focus off the boss. I need to just take our runes and get out as well. That way we can spend them and I don't have to keep rushing for them. That is a very dangerous thing. Alright, I'm fairly sure it takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 casts. And with Magic Glint Blade in particular, it is very much worth counting. It's just like when you're using the Sorcerer Fortune. With the Sorcerer Fortune, you do want to count your, oh, and I better not get ahead of myself. You want to count your spells. With the Sorcerer, you'll count to like 8 or 9. Whereas with Magic Glint Blade, you're counting the number of casts it'll take to kill your target. And very often, that count is somewhere between, I'd say, 3 and 6, depending on your exact stat lineup and the catalyst you're using. And casting spells in Elden Ring is something that is very intensive. It's very resource intense. Like I said, you're counting and managing resources. That's not an easy thing to do at all. How many of these can we cast? 1, 2, 3, and then re-drink. I'm minding that dog in the background. Oh, there we go. This is how we do it. Sometimes you just need to do something else. You need to do something different. You don't have a choice in that regard. You have to change up your tactics. You have to re-examine your methods. And sometimes dots simply aren't good enough. You need nice, consistent burst damage, which the magic glint blades provide very nicely to the enemies that are vulnerable to them, of course, or if your stats are high enough to overcome the odd magic resistance. And you might be asking, what's the... Oh boy. What is our next step, you might be wondering? What is this thing that we have to do? I'll tell you what that next step is. That next step is returning back to Round Table Hold, as the thing about people that we know work for Gideon, which Nefeli was already his adopted daughter. We know that she works for him. Is that she would have surely reported back in to her father, to her foster father.
Shall I turn? Let my share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions, the prince. Shall I turn? Let my hand share them.
And we'll actually want to retain our wizard fortune for a little bit longer. But we need a different spell, a slightly different spell. We need better spacing tools. First, Crystal Burst is a very good option now, supposedly. Then we will want all kinds of trackers. Phalanx, Glintblade. As we're going to be running into a bit of problems returning back to Gideon Ofnir. You'll see as soon as we head back there. As you can see, we have met our trouble. We can mess up Ensha by pulling them in gravitationally, but there is a problem in doing this. Mainly in that Ensha's extremely quick. Thankfully, Magic Glint Blade is a useful sorcery. It is good for roll catching. Very good. Extremely good. So, he was sitting outside of, I think it was he, sitting outside of Gideon's office. The question is, why would Ensha attack us?
You've received the wisdom of the two fingers, have you not? Then I bid you welcome, as a true member of the Round Table. I am known as Gideon Ofnir, as a tarnished who wishes to stand before the Elden Ring and become Elden Lord. I am accumulating knowledge, to be all-knowing. You now belong to a select group of fellows. As such, I ask that you remain constant. You'll be after more great runes now, eh? Then as your fellow, allow me to divulge a little knowledge. The inheritors of the great runes, the Shard Bearers. We of the Round Table know the location of 5 of them, including the one you defeated. Godric the Grafted, Lord of Stormvale. General Radahn, who fought Melania and her rot to a standstill in the Caelid Wild.
I guess we never talked to Gideon.
Rykard, Lord of the volcano manor of Mount Gelmir. Morgoth the Grace-Given, Veiled Monarch and Lord of Latenna. And Renala, Queen of the Full Moon, ruler of Rhea Lucaria's Academy. You'll still be after more great runes, won't you?
But we need to talk about Ensha.
Oh, my apologies for that nasty business. Ensha got rather ahead of himself, it seems. As his master, I'd like to express my regret. But now, Ensha is slain and gone. Finished, forevermore. Ah, yes. By way of apology, allow me to tender some advice in regard to the half of the secret medallion you possess. Find the Albinoric woman. She hides in a cave to the west of the Laskia ruins, which jut from the mist-shrouded lake of Liurnia. She knows the location of the medallion's counterpart, I'm sure.
Oh, and by the way, if you wanted a lore dump or, what exactly it is we need to do, Gideon Ofnir is the guy you should talk to fully explore those possibilities in dialogue. And we'll be doing that now by talking about each of these things.
So, Godric the Grafted, Lord of Stormvale. Despite being the blood of Godfrey, first Elden Lord, he's a grotesque old fool grasping for power. His castle lies upon the cliff to Limgrave's northwest, but I suspect you know that well enough already. General Radahn, the famed Red Lion and Scourge of the Stars, is a ferocious warrior. He fought Melania and her rot to a standstill in the Caelid Wilds to Limgrave's east. And now Caelid has been engulfed by the Scarlet Rot. Even approaching the region is no mean feat. I've heard survivors of Radahn's army are still in the wilds, staving off the rot with fire. And if it's true, I suspect Radahn is still there as well, in Caelid. Though, I doubt he much resembles his former self anymore. Praetor Rykard is the Lord of the Volcano Manor on Mount Gelmir. He is a ruthless justiciar who commands a company of inquisitors, reviled for his serpentine demeanor. The volcano, Mount Gelmir, lies in the west of the Altus Plateau, the realm of the Erd Tree. It was the stage of the most appalling battle in the entirety of the Shattering. Rykard has committed the grave sin of blasphemy, marking himself as an enemy never to be forgiven. Morgoth the Grace-Given is Lord of Latenna, the capital city. It lies at the foot of the Erd Tree, in the east of the Altus Plateau. but the Two Fingers forbid us from venturing there until we've acquired enough great runes to repair the Elden Ring. Set your sights elsewhere for the time being. The Veiled Monarch can wait.
There will be different dialogue once we get another Shard Bearer's great rune.
The Academy of Rea Lucaria lies to Limgrave's north, towering over the mist-laden lands of Liurnia. Renala is queen of the Carian royals, who govern the Academy, but Renala herself is no demigod. Her beloved Radagon left her to become Queen Marika's second husband, taking the title of King Consort. The Great Rune dwells within the amber egg that was Radagon's gift to her.
Well, well, well. Yeah, there's all that lore. Gideon is like, here, I'll tell you where to go, but how you get there and what you do with it is up to you. That's pretty much what he's saying, even if he isn't outright directly telling you. I suppose it's worth mentioning that I guess we wouldn't have gotten the welcome to the round table hold if we had actually talked to him. I thought we did. I guess we didn't. You don't have any bell bearings. I don't have anything worth purchasing at this juncture. And I suppose now that the fight's over, let's get our equipment in order. We'll have more chances for Crystal Burst. It is a good spell, but only if you get it completely charged, from what I understand. It's very good at covering space. I believe the person we want to talk to is in the basement. Sure enough.
Ah, you. Please, leave me be. It's pathetic, I know, but I need to think.
What's wrong?
Ah, you. Please, it's pathetic, I know, but...
Okay, well, let's go talk to your foster father. Maybe, maybe he'll give us some idea of what you can do. I get the feeling this was over the murder of the Omen Killer,
Well, you've already heard. Indeed, it seemed the whelp harbored suspicions, so I had no further use for her. Honestly, what's a man to do? A determined plebeian is more wicked than an omen horn, quite frankly. I suspect that's just what the Queen wants. A dose of ambition to incite the tarnished.
So it's one of those... She was digging around in his affairs, so she wasn't welcome anymore. But at the same time, he recognizes her potential. That, had she only known the facts, she wouldn't have got herself mixed up with the Omen Killer and would have left them alone.
Ah, you. Please, it's pathetic, I know. So you know already, do you? Right. It's true. My father cast me out for indulging my emotions, forgetting the mission, punishment for offing his pawns. Lord Gideon has offered me guidance all my life. I would have done anything for him, to place him on the throne of Elden Lord. And yet though it was not my intent, I betrayed him. And I can no longer trust in Father. To think he'd order his men to enact such tragedy. Where is the justice he purports in that? He once told me that if he became Elden Lord, he would never allow the downtrodden to be cheated ever again. Was he simply lying to me? No. How could I say that? Father has always given me his guidance. And now, I've lost it. No. How could I say Father has always given...
If I'm being honest with you, Nepheli, you don't need him. You already have the biggest and best potential of your life. You have your whole life in front of you. You will have your own destiny soon enough. You will go on to do better things, or, serve some grander purpose. Whatever fits your fancy, really. And we will help her with that in due time. It won't be for a long, long while before we actually deal with that. Let's see, I believe we want either we will probably want cure poison here. That's what I'm thinking. Before we take on other things. Wrong. We want to be preparing other spells first. Oh, something worth noting is that Howl of Shabriri boosts damage output for 20 seconds. It is supposed to be 40 in Elden Ring patch 1.07. However, patch changes are not typically carried over in ERR patches. They just aren't. Kernifer has a very different purpose in mind that can't be muddied up by patches, and I understand that. I definitely understand that. So only specific things from the patch are carried over, and I don't know what that is. I would love a list, and this might be something I get to ask Kernifer later, but I would like a list of things that they carried over from the patch, because that's worth talking about. It's worth discussing. I'll need to clean my desk. And as far as the mixing board is concerned, just deviating subjects for a minute. As far as the mixing board is concerned, I am still thinking about exactly which mixing board I want. I think I've narrowed it down to a Yamaha mixing board, which is super expensive, and a much cheaper mixing board that I forget the name of. It kind of depends on how many sources for sound I need in order to make it work. And I'm not even sure my computer has enough ports, like mainly the streaming computer has enough ports to handle what I'm looking for. It's a case of my streaming computer has I want to say it's a mini ATX motherboard. So all your parts have to be, unless they're like USBs or something, have to be sized for the mini, not the normal. My lovely gaming computer, my dearest Omen, has a regular normal sized ATX motherboard. It's a bigger motherboard. And because it has a bigger motherboard, all those parts, or at least a very different motherboard, it has to be sized correctly, or there are going to be problems. So I'm having to think about that. I did try using PC Part Picker in order to try to get the correct mixing board. However, there are some problems with that. Also, one thing we are going to do, and it's in today's title, so now that we've defeated the Omen Killer and we're in this state of limbo with Nefeli Lu's quest, we're in the same state of limbo as Kenneth Heights as well. Those two intertwine at a later point. I think what we're going to do now is finish exploring Liurnia. We don't have any reason not to. We have no reason not to. And I think the Dectus lift contains a boss it did not contain before. In Elden Ring baseline, there aren't any bosses at the Dectus lift. I believe that is one of the ones that Kernifer added a boss to, along with a couple of other locations. There are boss entries in other spots now. What we're going to do is probably not rest here while we figure it out. We should get beyond the ballistae first, or trebuchets and catapults. Thankfully, this is a pretty easy schlep to make once you know what you're doing. Oh, and while I'm here, if you'll take a look at the Ravine Veiled Village, do you see this set of lifts here with the scaffolding and everything? Those columns? That is our ticket to Altus Plateau early. We need to go here for a very different reason. But only after we explored Liurnia properly. And that includes both cliff sides. But rest assured, we will explore it. We will go do things in the intended proper order. See that? That wasn't there at the Dectus lift before. That was very much not at the lift before. It's a sentinel. It is a Erdtree sentinel. And what are we aiming to do with this lovely bit of information? Oh, and there's something we can get. Somber smithing stones, always a nice find. Thankfully, our incantation suite is enough to where, as long as we're not going so fast through an area that we get surrounded, we always have a tool in our toolbox. And granted, I think I could say the same of our lineup of sorceries at this point. We don't have enough diverse tools. See, sorceries can deal more than magic damage, but we haven't really gotten a chance to find some of the spells that do this yet, and they are few and far between. Most of them do deal magic damage, but the magma line of sorceries do not. They deal fire damage. And I believe in the mod, in base Elden Ring, gravitational sorceries did magic damage, or a split between magic and physical. In Elden Ring, most gravitational in Elden Ring Reforged, most gravitational sorceries deal standard damage. That's just generic physical damage, nothing else. Before we fight this boss, let's review our chart. Our Draconic, I think this is the correct one. Draconic Tree Sentinel. Takes 15% more from Pierce damage. Mostly takes reduced magic damage. Is susceptible to poison, rot, sleep, and resistant to other kinds of statuses. We will be reducing this proclivity for resistance with our poison mist. But getting them to stay in it for a long period of time is going to prove to be difficult. Do we have a nearby stake before I go and fight this boss? If not, I kind of want to find a, rest site first, or try to find one. I don't think it's likely I'm going to, because I don't remember one ever being here normally, but it's worth a look. You never know. I think I could safely say with confidence that there is no such rest site available, so we will be making do without a stake effect. We're gonna have a long walk back, so we're gonna need to be very careful. Oh, this is a regular tree sentinel. You weren't doing that before. I guess you're doing it now. You see what I mean? And we have a long trek back. I did see a rest site beyond at the Dectus lift, so all we have to do is just make our way over to that lift again. And it pretty much has been name dropped at this point through the use of items that it is in fact the Dectus lift and not a different kind of lift. Plus, I think I've already mentioned the existence of the Dectus lift and the Rolled lift, respectively. So it's not as if we're, surprised at being spoiled or anything of the sort. Our runes aren't worth a terrible amount of picking up at the moment. You can pick them up. But we probably should pick them up. We're just going to... We're just gonna grab this. We're not being watched now, so we're gonna go see what this ghost has to say. It's there somewhere. Another path leading back to the foot of the Erd Tree. An ancient tunnel. Someone who didn't have the Dectus medallions, clearly. So, this is just a tree sentinel, and not a draconic tree sentinel. So let's try this again. 30 defense, 95 poise. It actually takes only standard physical damage. 0.5% or 5% more from magic. Less from other types. It is poison. It is vulnerable to poison, or I should say, normally resistant to poison, scarlet rot, and sleep, with middling resistances on everything else. The fact that it's vulnerable to magic damage should suggest that this is another case where we need to change over our resistances, or not resistances, but change over our spells again. Probably not going to do this yet, though. There's no real reason to do it. Until it is time to do it. I know, weird, right? What can I say? It's your standard tree sentinel. There's nothing else to say. So I'm just going to see you guys on the other side of this fight. I will say the charge attack is new. Could be worse. He says as he gets flummoxed by the tree sentinel almost immediately. That was a weird angle. I see when he's holding his shield up like that, we better just not be casting anything at the moment. You learn these things by doing, ladies and gentlemen. There's nothing else to say about this. We learn by doing. We learn that he has new permutations of the same techniques, an extra sweep after the first time he misses, a charge attack where he holds his spear forward instead of off to the side. When he holds his shield, there are bolts that come out and explode, and that we probably shouldn't be fighting him in that area, as it probably applies a sort of warmth style effect, if you will. And I don't think we can summon anything for this either. Nope. You're forced to fight him by yourself, which is fine. Nothing to do but try again, right? That's what these games are all about. That is a very dangerous camera angle. Really? Right where I was going? Right where I was going, huh? I believe it's slashing or strike damage. Of which it is probably just simply better to switch. This is one of those times where you just have to not be set in your methods. If you're not going for a challenge run of some kind, or anything like that, you know, don't push yourself.
Spoken echoes of Queen Marika. Shall I share them with you? In Marika's own words, the Earth Tree governs all. The choice is thine. Become one with the Order, or divest thyself of it, to wallow at the fringes, a powerless upstart.
So we're going to try using our sorceries instead. Granted, we won't have any of the nice effects, but we won't need to do this for too long. We only need a couple of very few spell effects to get things started. we're actually going to use Scholar's Shield, something that I don't normally do. And the reason for this is, at most, we're going to be shifting between 2 spells tops. There's no reason to use other spells, strictly because I didn't change the fortune. Let's fix that. Strictly because it appears to me that one half of Liurnia is dedicated to trouncing on sorceries, and the other half actually expects you to use them. This is that part in the game where you can't just say, oh, well, it's a land of magic, you know, don't bother preparing your sorceries or anything, because you're just going to get resisted. That's actually not the case. And I know what I said earlier regarding that, and it's not that I was lying, it's that I needed to get you guys thinking, and myself thinking, about, you know, what would a first-timer, you know, playing the game do? What would a new person do? Like, oh, well, I'm just gonna follow my old habits. And my intuition says, if a place is full of sorcery, don't bother preparing any. Kind of pointless. See how you can run and still not manage to outrun the guy? You do have to mind the, sorceries, though. He is more prone to reflect those. It's got a very slight leftward arc. No, they've just got slight tracking, period. that's where we get this spell. Okay. I apologize for my lack of commentary during that. I didn't expect that to take me 20 minutes, but it did. Maybe 10 minutes. That was a tree sentinel put in a place we weren't expecting. Well, I mean, no, I didn't mention it. If you ever want to know what sort of patch changes are being made at any given time, I can't promise it's completely relevant or accurate. You can type in !ERW. No, it's ERRW. Excuse me. And there's a website with the changelog on it. And that website is how you can sift through the various changes made by Kurnifer throughout the various patches. It's not in any chronological order. It's categorically sorted. So if you want to know if something has been changed, you'll want to get very familiar with the sorting system. And generally speaking, everything you need to know is categorically sorted for a reason. So I recommend you looking at that very carefully. Let's slaver over our new find, shall we? This is the first instance of a brand new spell. I can see that it is missing the bigger icon. We will need to fix that. It's not a super big deal breaker or anything, but you can tell this has been modded. You do have a good idea. Hurls Holy Javelin before caster. One of the incantations of the Golden Order Fundamentalists. Favored incantation of the champion Radagon. Summons a Holy Javelin and hurls it before the caster. Charging causes the javelin to explode in a burst of gold upon the caster, or upon impact. During the Liurnian Wars, the roar of these javelins would herald every battle in which Radagon partook. Sounds like something that Miyazaki would write, isn't it? Well, I don't want to be the person who's like, oh, we can't use the new spell because we're a magic user. No, let's change that. Granted, the Sword of Fortune of the Paladin would be just as effective at using this as Warlock. We don't have the fortitude to make Paladin work. We can't really take hits that well. Also something unique to Golden Order Fortune, or Golden Order sorceries, or Golden Order incantations, I can't talk, is that they have an intelligence requirement, meaning they aren't just something rooted in belief, they're rooted in an understanding of the natural world or an understanding of its own tenets. One of those two things is happening, guaranteed. Nope, wrong spell. Let's see. Look, this is basically a recolored lightning bolt now that I look at it, which is fine. I don't have a problem with that. Look, our spell editing tools are not very good for modding Elden Ring at the moment. Like, they're serviceable, but they're not a complete experience or anything. And we want to prepare a Cure Poison spell. Also, I will say, one thing in regard to our, Cure Poison versus Flame Cleanse Me is this. Health matters. And in 99% of cases. If you need something that cleanses both poison and scarlet rot, Flame Cleanse Me is a better spell, period. But there are fringe cases where your health matters. Don't use Flame Cleanse Me if you're low on health. Use a bolus or something. That would be far better. Do we have the correct fortune applied? We do. We do. Also, I didn't even bother applying a defensive talisman. Don't be like me. Always make sure you have the defensive talismans applied. They could save your life. Now, let's take a look at this. Wow. And if you stick the landing on something, that'd be freaking cool. Okay. We appear to have stabilized. Just in time for an intermission, no doubt. Um, so our game plan at this point is to um go over to the Laskia ruins, and for reference, the Laskia ruins are about right here. They're at this label. What we want to do is go find a cave or cavern system that's pretty close. I'm fairly sure we want to be off the cliff rather than on it, but we are going to find that out for ourselves soon enough. What we're going to do is go back to the Laskia ruins and take our second intermission for the second stream. If you need another stretch break, now would be a perfectly good time to do that. I'm going to probably run a longer ad this time, so that by the time we're done, we don't have a pre-roll to worry about for a little bit. I do apologize for the pre-roll. Really, I do. But there's nothing I can do about that. Yeah, go stretch, go get a drink, go get a snack, all that fun stuff. And I will see you guys back in 10 minutes or so. Sorry about that. I know I would have turned on my mic in a hot second, but I did want to check messaging and make sure that I hadn't missed anything important, even if it was on a different content medium other than Twitch. You know, sometimes people use Discord to talk to me, and I need to be aware of that when it happens. Um, like I said, I mainly wow, great transition. Hopefully, everybody did have a good intermission. I did keep this one a little bit shorter. I realize I said I'd be back at about 10, but um really, I only needed that time to stretch. I did also manage to ingest what I would call something between a late night snack and breakfast. Um, so that's mainly what I did. I've already got my drink to accompany that breakfast. Now, I believe Gideon told us that the secret to these medallions lies with an albinoric woman, which we were told her name is Latenna, and we need to find a cave system that adequately deals with... Oh, wow. That's impressive. That spell has impressive distance. Wow. I almost don't want to do or use anything else. But I know, this isn't the qualm of our build. And by the way, I have mentioned this for the record, but I'm just going to mention it again on air, that my favorite play style with any FromSoft title is to implement status where I know it is effective and punish a boss for having a weakness to that status. Poison is usually the most common thing I find that they have a problem with, but there are other statuses I can use as well. And it has a splash AoE. This spell is good. This spell is excellent. Anything that doesn't have a holy resistance, look out. Now that I know the secret of these little puffballs, if it worked on Daddy Podling, it could work on the little ones. Yep. Mm-hmm. It is one niche application of Poison Mist you wouldn't really think about. You're thinking... I would say people who maybe don't bother testing out that assumption are thinking in terms of Dark Souls 3. And this is fine, but... it does kind of limit you. It does kind of limit you on what, what you're willing to do in terms of solving your problems. It's actually really cool. I wouldn't expect FromSoft to have made it so these little squirts explode when they you can tell where my mind is already, when they are subjected to poison. You wouldn't think so, but I suppose that's From for you. Look, I know the boss design isn't the greatest for Elden Ring. Like, I won't sit here and defend it. People have lambasted its boss design, and I think it rightfully does deserve some critique. However, they always know how to tell a good story. I'm sort of starting to liken FromSoft to Blizzard in a number of capacities with regard to its bosses. insofar as I think From started to scrape the bottom of the barrel in terms of its boss designs, as all of them are, or a lot of them are, these intricate fights that really sort of unfairly punish you. And I think FromSoft has realized that it has overtuned a ton of fights, but there's really only so much they're going to be able to adjust, given that the game is already, past its shelf life, so to speak. It's a good game. Its bosses are just overtuned. That's all. I love this thing. I don't want to use another spell. It lights up pathways. It explodes when it's charged. It comes out fast, like a lightning bolt. Why would you ever run Lightning Spear when you can run this? Because of the damage typing, actually. That's the main reason you'd run Lightning Spear over Javelin. I almost feel like this needs to be nerfed in some way. My goodness, look at how strong this is. Yeah, this is very powerful. But I like it. I like how her build is sort of changing and altering its shape depending on the gear we pick up. With a spell like Javelin of Gold, we may actually be able to run a more durable fortune like the Fortune of the Paladin to really take advantage of this spell. I sort of wish the same kind of treatment, although not exactly this way. This is a lightning spear that's holy that explodes. I almost wish a similar treatment could be done for Discus and for I even have the spell on hand, don't I? No, I don't. It's Litany of Proper Death. There we go. Litany of Proper Death. Like, it's a nice spell. It affects things in a wider area, but this does its job a little bit better. Why would you use a different spell over this? Except if you need an impossibly large swath of ground to cover to take everything out at once. I'm kind of unsure of what to think of this. Yeah, this deals a lot of damage, and even uncharged, it does a fairly significant chunk as well. I guess I would say it is balanced by its expensiveness. Yeah, look, 360 for this. We're getting 4 casts at most before we need to use a generator or something. I guess that's fine. It's powerful and fast, but expensive. Maybe I'll grow to appreciate its finer balances eventually. It just seems slightly overtuned. That's all. And here we obtain the Spear Talisman, which, if you use specifically thrusting weapons, the Spear Talisman is good for you. You should pick it up. You'll find it here. But I don't know if I'd go out of your way to get it, necessarily. Counterattacks are already fairly strong, without the without the talisman. No doubt this cave's main features to actually drop down, as you'd think the only thing that this cave would have going for it is the demi-humans that are here, but there's a little bit more to it than that. For instance, you have these crystal formations that you can probably jump onto. I don't recommend doing it at this time, but you can do it. But the main place where you will see these that you actually have to platform onto them is going to be over in Caelid, near a place called Celia, where we've only heard faint whispers of, and that's pretty much about it. 3 flame spells, be my guest. These snails spit out crystals that deal magic damage. They have a breath, they can roll around. They can spit stuff or breathe it in a cone. They can also ram you as well. These are certainly one of the more interesting enemies to fight, in my opinion. They're pretty weak, but I do like that they used a different enemy, at least. And of course, as usual, it melts to Javelin of Gold. I feel like this is just slightly overtuned right now. But this is also with 174 incant scaling, so I'm not sure about that. I don't know what kind of testing Curtifer has done with this spell, but it does feel slightly overtuned, just from a middling standpoint. This is also a single-player game, though. Things don't have to be balanced to death. You can just have genuinely strong spells, and it's fine. I'm not sure what to think yet. I mean, I'm sitting here and speculating about the spell now, of course. But that's not the same as giving an honest review of the spell after the fact. That there is a different feel to it than that. It's really powerful. I think I will say that much. It's really powerful. It's hard to match. It's hard to match its value. Also, what lies here is another Bloodhound Knight, by the way. Just in case you were wondering what the big open space is for, it's this. It melts bosses. Thank you, demi-humans. If you wanted a way to directly buff your FP, this is where you will find it. It's a good item, and it sucks that it's locked behind a reused boss, but what can you do? It's kind of hard to make unique variations of this. Maybe one of the things that we could do to address the problem with later bosses is we may not be able to get rid of unique bosses or placeholder bosses, although we kind of already have been doing this with things like the Phantom Crucible Knight. Maybe we could do similar things where Kernifer can train us on an annoying boss, and it'll get much easier to deal with when we use the helpful guides. But that's for a later time. It is worth thinking about, however. So here we are. We've made it to what is the western side of the Lasker ruins. Who are you?
Foul tarnished. What do you want? I told the all-hearing brute that I possess no such medallion. Or have you come to take more from me? Was my other half not enough?
My other oh, he killed your wolf. That's what happened.
Do you speak true? So old Albus entrusted his medallion to you. Then I've no choice but to trust that this was his dying will. Let's try again. I'm Latenna, an Albinoric, the same as old Albus. My apologies for my coarse words earlier. I presume the worst. Seeing that you're another tarnished like that all-hearing brute, I hope that you will forgive me.
It's funny that Gideon is described in this manner.
The medallion's better off in your hands anyway. Would you consider doing me a great service? I must go back. There is something I must do, even if I must say farewell to my wolf Lobo. Will you show me the way? To the land of Miquella's Halib tree. If you accept, I would gladly apprise you of the whereabouts of the medallion's other half. Thank you kindly. They say the other half of the medallion is beyond the Forbidden Lands, north of the Erdtree, in Castle Sol, on the mountain tops of the Giants, accessible by the Grand Lift of Rold. Then I suppose it's time. Farewell, Lobo. My faithful wolf. My better half. I will go with the Tarnished, so that our journey will not have been in vain. Forgive me, Lobo.
And our reward is a...
Upon me when needed, and I will fight at your side.
Our reward is an item old and an item new. We get a very situational, but good if used properly, Spirit Ash. The Spirit Ash of Latenna. Let's read a little bit, because we don't know that much about her currently. Just need to... Here we are. Ashen remains in which the spirits yet dwell, used to summon the spirit of Latenna the Albinoric, a rare case of one who chose to become a spirit voluntarily. Latenna was renowned as a deft magic archer, but having lost her beloved wolf companion Lobo, she cannot move from the place where she was summoned. Yeah, you remember how I said that the Albinorics have lame feet? This is what I meant. Their feet are sort of like fading away into nothing, and when they lose their feet completely, like their legs, they die. This is more or less the same thing. So Latenna, when you summon her, isn't gonna go anywhere at all. The only time she moves is if something else moves her. That's it. That's all there is. And we also get another rune arc for our troubles as well, which is good. We could use those. The more important thing that we received is the Fortune of Latenna, legendary fortune of the lands between. Increases in dexterity, intelligence, and arcane. Oh, so an archer build that rewards status already. Increases FP. Increases projectile damage. And range when wielding bows, and adds magic damage to arrows. When wielding a medium-sized bow, hold an arrow while stationary to charge it, greatly increasing range and damage. Decreases HP, decreases sorcery and incantation damage, reduces stamina regeneration while running. Sprinting and jumping consume more stamina. So our ranger just buffs our fortune of the ranger as a common fortune, and our common fortune buffs a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't do much else. And it only generally helps our playstyle. The Fortune of Latenna is a very specific playstyle. It is a very specific playstyle. If you want to play exactly like her, this is how you do it. Plus, it's an intelligence archer that actually rewards you for having arcane. Imagine that. And, of course, magic damage is the name of the game. If you want... why don't we check it out, actually? We do have a bow. We can't afford to mint out an arrow. We have a medium-sized bow. We can make use of it. We probably aren't going to be very good until we get a better bow, but it's better than nothing. Might as well revert our fortune for the time being. And then we can apply another... Let's increase our effective range. I want to note, and this is something very important, and this is something I see a lot in the Elden Ring Reforged Discord. People talk about range on a bow. Arrow's Reach Talisman does not buff your range. When it says you have 50 units of range to work with, 50 units of range to work with, you have exactly that. What they're talking about with Arrow's Reach Talisman is something called effective range. Effective range is damage fall off, basically. So beyond a certain point normally, I'd say a little before halfway on your shot, maybe a little after halfway, if your shot starts to arc when you fire an arrow, it'll do less damage, proportional to the extra distance. I tried to combine distance and damage there. Proportional to the extra distance the bow would travel while it's still within its total range of fire. So 50 units, in other words, or 50 meters. Once it starts arcing, that is generally where the fall off begins. So maybe a little more like 3/4 of the way, now that I'm thinking it through more effectively. This just makes it so the fall off probably happens right at the tip of the distance, really. There's another talisman we'll get later in the game that does actually boost your real arrow or real firing range. I completely forgot what I was gonna say. I believe that talisman is somewhere in Caelid, if I'm not mistaken. Probably closer to where Radon sits, if I am probing my memory correctly. But, we'll get to that talisman in due time. Plus, we don't have the dex to make good use of our lovely little fortune. We just don't. So it's a nice fortune, but it's something to play around later once we have our effective stats where we want them. We're gonna go ahead and resculpt our spells here. I thought this, ironically, I thought we would have had to cure poison here. So we're going to use a heal here instead. Or, yeah, regular heal's fine. No, we don't have any of these that would light up. Sorry, I was kind of thinking through what I was trying to do, and I'm trying to be good at thinking out loud. Like, literally thinking out loud. So that's pretty much it. Again, we can't access this little slice of topological heaven yet. It's going to be like mid to late game before we do this. Probably mid-game if I had to guess. And mid-game is a very, very broad word in Elden Ring. I want people to realize that pretty much immediately. That it is a very, very broad word. It is very easy to say that Liurnia, or not Liurnia, but like if you get to Weeping Peninsula, you're already starting to dip your toe in. No. I would call this little southern peninsula early game. Very easy. Even most of, even like about half of the Siofra River, I would also consider early game. Only this section of it I would consider mid. Same thing with the Ainsel River well. The Ainsel River I would also class as like a at best starting to dip its toe into mid game. Not much more than that. What are we gonna do next, you might ask? Well, we're going to go over to the artist's shack and try to find a place called Jarburg. Jarburg is a secluded, out-of-the-way area that, as you guessed it, houses many living jars. However, there's something really unique and different about about those jars that I want to showcase. Made evident when we actually go there, but if it's a name like Jarburg, you can already kind of get at what I'm talking about here, right? You know, the fact that it's a center of civilization. It's a town with people, more or less. We have our entry into Jarburg right here. Down the tombstones. Seems like we should kill them, right? The jars? Trust me, you might want to hold that thought for just a moment. First, we want to head over to the back of the peninsula, or the cliff face first. I don't know why I'm thinking peninsula. I guess I just got that word stuck on the brain. And we have a mausoleum tucked in the back. Mausoleum, graveyard. I misspeak a lot, okay? Don't judge. No, judge if you want to. I know I would probably be thinking thoughts about people in the back of my mind. I gatekeep them really well, and I realize they're rude things to say, so I never comment on a person's misspeech unless it's relevant, but what I expect of others, I should expect of myself. Or, to put another way, I expect better of myself compared to what I expect of someone else. I always expect to be the bigger, better person in an argument and walk away. Don't think twice. Our life does get significantly easier once we talk to this jar a few times.
Hello, Cuz. What are you doing here? I didn't think anyone knew about this place. Except us jars. Ah. Are you going to be the new potentate? Oh. Well, I'm sorry. Cuz, you'll be our potentate after all, then? Gosh. Truly. That's wonderful news. It's not easy being potentate, though. I know. Show me your hands. It's just a little test, Cuz. To see if you've got the right stuff. Your skin isn't so smooth, is it? You need slick, slidey hands to be potentate, you know? I'm sorry, Cuz. But I don't think you've got what it takes. What a shame.
Slick, slidey hands. That's all I'm gonna say about this.
Don't look so glum, Cuz. We can still chat. Potentate or not, come back and visit me. When you can. Don't look so glum. We can still chat.
So, this little jar guy, there's a gimmick, and that gimmick is talking to him a bunch of times. This was something I missed my first time as well. My first time of a half-finished playthrough.
Oh. Hello again, Cuz. I'm happy you came back. I have good tidings for you, Cuz. Have you noticed the rare flowers growing in this village? I asked the villagers if you could pick some of them, and they said you'd be very welcome. Go on, Cuz. You really should pick some of our flowers. Who knows? They might be of some use.
Okay, we'll take you up on your offer right now. Yeah, so, you see these jars? Can't talk to them or anything, but you can certainly just ignore them. Don't kill them. Please. I mean, do what you want, but still, there's no reason to kill them. They're being nice. Play nice. That's what I tell my dogs. Play nice. Be nice. They usually listen. Usually. You can get all kinds of stuff here, though. Tarnished golden sunflowers, grave violets, both Mikola's and Trina's lilies, both of them. The main point of coming here, though, is access to more cracked and ritual pots. Not just the rare herbs and flowers. And eyeball grapes, because why not? That's what the eyes of Yulo are grapes. Like, if I open and show the crafting material to you, I promise you won't think of them the same way again. A shrub fruit bursting with ripened pulp. See? They're eyeballs. All of them. They're eyeball berries. Feels like something that should be in Terraria, not a game like this, but in a land of high fantasy. A lot of these, flowers are very weird. They're allowed to be mystical things. There are also broken jar remnants that are here, living jar shards. Those are useful for, I think, a handful of crafting items, but I do not remember right off the top of my head. So sorry. Also get used to getting called cause a lot. C-O-Z, cause. It's just a term of endearment. But it is a strange term nonetheless to hear for yourself. I've grown a liking to it. We have one other item to get while we're here, and then we can go about our business. Don't worry, this place is actually important for a quest later. It isn't some quaint little village with nothing going for it. It does have something going for it, but only if you handle it the right way, I think we picked up 4 cracked pots and 2 ritual pots. I think, if I've been counting correctly. The footage will show it for sure. Look, see, this is where the bridge would be. There's no bridge there. If you try to make this jump, you'd fall off. What would be really cool is if there was like a spirit spring bridge of sorts. It'd have to be a pretty powerful spirit spring, but you could probably throw one in here. Just crank it up really high, and do the same thing with the other one, and then you can just gallop to it. It's more of a cool thing than a thing that makes sense in lore. But I think it would be cool if a Spirit Spring Bridge were added. Let's reset the area again. I think you can get at least 3 or 4 rounds of dialogue if you come to Jarberg by around this time. I think the next point of reset is either while you're in Caelid or while you're in Altus. And I know there's definitely a point of dialogue that can happen when you talk to the Alexander of the Iron Fist a certain number of times.
Ah, hello again. Say, cuz, have you met Uncle Alexander? He used to live here with us, but then he left to be a champion. I asked to go with him, but he said, the path of champions must be trod alone. So heroic, right? I miss him, though. If you see him, you should ask him to teach you how to fight, cuz. He's big and tough and strong.
For a jar.
Uncle Alexander said he won't be back again. My home is of the past, and the past, as they say, is a different country. I suppose that's part of being a warrior, isn't it? So, please don't tell anyone, 'cause
Now, Iron Alexander, I think, is his name.
I'm actually a warrior jar as well. One day, I'll be just like Uncle Alexander. Then I'll have to leave the village to become a champion. Uncle Alexander, my home is... I suppose that's part...
Let's see. I think I can get one more round of dialogue. Yeah, I think one would be about the extent of it. We really haven't,
Uncle Alexander, my home is of...
I guess not. But there's Jarberg for you. It's a pretty nifty little place, wouldn't you say? Where to next? I think there's something else I'd like to showcase. I know it's not the western cliffside of Liurnia, but it is a pretty interesting place to speak of, and what I speak of is a church. I know, Get used to churches and cathedrals, ladies and gentlemen. They really are, like, spirituality is a really big thing in a lot of FromSoft titles. It's not religion. It, like, there is mention of it. Like, I'd call the Golden Order both an order and a religion at the same time. But there are a lot of things that aren't. But you're still drawing upon the spiritual depths of something. Up here is an item. I believe it is a smithing stone. Oh, that's close. Yeah, these things are really lethal. Yeah. If you're too far away, the lobster will just sit and spam stuff at ya. Yeah, they really will spit stuff at you. You have to be mindful. Of course I say that knowing full well I say it every darn time, but it really is the truth. You really do have to mind. You really do have to mind these lobsters. They're like mini bosses all on their own. They are vulnerable to lightning damage. That doesn't mean it's easy to land it on them, however. In fact, it's not very easy to land it on them, but it is possible. What does everyone think so far? Of Elden Ring Reforged, I mean. Have a very visible way, something better than ducking, or deflecting, or like the FP system. We have a whole new spell. We know right away that when I possess this spell, we're definitely playing a mod. Like, it's not just... Like, the feel of Elden Ring Reforged is definitely something supposed to be like an expansion pack. You throw it in, there's a whole bunch of quality of life stuff, there's maybe a lot of new things added, but it's overall it's still the same game. It's very different from what Convergence is going to be like, where it's a very different game, and it's intended to be a different game. Yeah, it is intended to be a very different game, and I can't wait to see what happens when the convergence team ultimately finishes and gets the mod into a completely playable state. I would love to play it, but it utterly depends on, our work with Elden Ring Reforged and our work with Blasphemous, like where we are when we finish it. This was just a smithing stone. It's nothing too impressive, but it is better than nothing. Where we're headed, we'll have an interesting character, let's say. That's probably a good way of putting it. There's an interesting character that is hard to ignore. You met him early on. Way early on. I'd probably say within the first episode or so is when you met him. Different topic. You remember how I said there were Gen 1 and Gen 2 Albinaurics? These are the Gen 2 ones. They have these weird, alien, blob-like faces. They're very weird to look at. This is it, right there. They still have the trait of having silver blood, but it's a lot more apparent how deformed and cursed they really are. The foot deformation is there, but it isn't as bad as the Generation 1 Albinaurics. They've even kind of adapted to their new life. A little bit, anyway. And look what we have here. The man himself, the legend, Vare. How have you been?
Ah, there you are. You claimed a great room and had your audience with the two fingers at the round table home. What was your impression? Aha, your intuition serves you well. My doubts had been piling up. You see, the words of the two fingers cannot be trusted. Truly, naught but rambling, senile delusions. I believe that when the Elden Ring was shattered, the two fingers were corrupted, their guidance skewed. Even worse, the fingers harbor no love for our kind. That's the part that irks the most. Oh, I have a gift for you, something fit only for the wise. A means for circumventing the draw of the two fingers. Give it a try, won't you? And if it please you, may we meet again. I've high hopes for you, my lambkin. Be sure to try that finger I gave you. There's no reason to dither. The tarnished were spurned by grace, forsaken by the two fingers. And now they ask you to mend their crumbling world? Your loyalties are misplaced with them. Be sure to try. I'm quite certain that you'll take to it. Be sure to try. I'm quite...
Okay, and this is about the part where we left off last time. Before a certain patch showed up, I would have to go off camera or off of Elden Ring Reforged, log back into the vanilla game, lose my stats, lose all of my stuff, go and invade 3 times, and then turn it back on, and you're stuck with the lack of stats until you respec or put a point in mind. Those are really ways you would change that. I think in patch 1.06 of Elden Ring, they introduced a way to avoid this. You can just skip to the last part. I do want to be very careful about this. As if I'm not right about this, and I believe that I am, there's a way to do it so that you don't have to invade 3 times at all. And being online with this mod will get you banned. So don't use those fingers no matter what you do. My apologies for the loud sound. Okay. So, as cool as our little reunion was with Vare, we're not going to be able to answer this NPC quest for a while. We need to be over in Altus somewhere in order for, at a specific set of ruins that I will not spoil right now, in order to actually go further than this statement where it's like, try the fingers. If you were playing in base, you could invade 3 times and skip what we're about to do here. No questions asked. We're not in it for that. So we'll be waiting a lot longer. This is the Rose Church. Rose Church is home to a very specific enemy type. An enemy type that I'm not very fond of fighting, but don't let it be said that we can't fight them. And I believe they are the Sanguine Nobles. They use a rapier, they have blood darts, they can make you bleed quite easily, and they're an all-around big bully. And they are omens to boot. These are probably omen nobles that didn't have their horns cut off for any reason. And they joined their lot with, say, maybe a different sort of lord, let's say. We don't know his name yet, so we'll talk about it. But, it's probably a good sign for us if they fall victim to our javelin of gold really easily. See, other than a navel, nothing else is defined, really. And that's pretty much it. This is what I wanted to show off earlier. We want to keep heading west now. We need to make it up to a different cliff face. Why, you might ask? Well, do you see that minor Erd tree over there? That's the next place we're headed. And it's part of our strategy of wrapping around the cliffside. Yeah, that's very much part of our strategy. Also, in regard to Nefeli Lu, for that particular quest line, it's actually pretty important that we come up through this way. Otherwise we'll miss an item that would actually be useful for our purposes. This spell is so good. It's way more powerful than anything we have access to, which is, then again, it's also scaled to where Altus is, rather than where we are right now. So it's quite possible that we're meant to use this in Altus, where it gets stiffed up a lot more. It gets stiffed up a lot more by the holy resistance that tends to be native in Altus.
Shall I turn? Let my hand share them with me. Your thoughts, your ambitions.
This will make our incantations hit even slightly harder. And our reward for coming here early is the converted tower. And here, as another hint, where it outright tells you the message. Erudition guide thee. Well, unlike the last tower we were at, way over here, at the converted fringe tower, where it is mandatory, this is already well known among the Elden Ring community, but there is a way to cheat at this tower, of which I will demonstrate right now. What you want to do is come and find a spot where it looks like you can jump on the roof here. And trust me, you can jump on this. Torrent can stand on it. Afterwards, we can proceed up the rise like normal. Or tower like normal, excuse me. These are normally rises, and they're given a name. The Fringe Tower and the Converted Tower are the two that don't have a name as far as I understand. Our reward is a very valuable item, a memory stone. Just the ability to cast one more spell means instead of this heal spell that's clunky and hard to use, we can use our Blessing of the Erd Tree and be that much more better prepared. Even though it doesn't heal right away, what it does do is let us keep moving, and as long as we play defensively, we can use the spell to our advantage, to our benefit. I'm going to do that now. And before we head to the Erd Tree, let's head to the southwest first. Just make sure there isn't a catacomb or something lurking back there, right? Seems like it would be a good place for one, right? That would be what I would think. Of course, I don't think there's a catacomb here, but you never know until you actually go and do the looking. That's the thing I would say about Elden Ring Reforged, is that even though it is still Elden Ring, so if you know Elden Ring, you know the game. There are spots where things have changed, and it is important to look around, to look at the various nooks and crannies, and make good use of them. These should stiff up the spell. Thank you for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Glad you're here. How are you doing? Hope you enjoy your stay. I'm doing fine. We are coming up on the tail end of the stream. We've been kind of walking around, and I really do have um um exploring Liurnia and finding everything there is to see in it. In particular, we got a brand new mod exclusive spell called Javelin of Gold, a Golden Order incantation that deals pretty decent damage, and it has better utility compared to, say, Lightning Spear. It's a good spell. I suppose I should take this opportunity to mention that if you're new here, and you want to know more information about the mods we're playing with or what we're using, you can type in ERR, all lowercase, and that'll take you to the mod. The bot will put out a message for the link to the Nexus mods page where this mod is. It's great. It's a fantastic mod. Just chilling at 3:12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Yeah, that's about what I'd be doing. Except I'd probably be sleeping as well, but that's neither here nor there. Some things to note about Elden Ring Reforged is that it's a quality of life overhaul mod that changes quite a few things about Elden Ring. How's the stream so far? Yeah, it's been pretty quiet. Like I was saying before, we explored Liurnia and dealt with a bunch of difficulties. We finally killed the Omen Killer, who was quite difficult to dispatch. We fought a tree sentinel that was here at the Grand Lift, courtesy of the Elden Ring Reforged mod. There is not a boss here at this lift normally. He dropped the Javelin of Gold, a custom spell. Then after that, we proceeded to explore Liurnia, which is mainly what we've been doing. That's pretty much about it. And apart from that, it's just been relatively quiet. I'm glad you're doing well, for what it's worth. Hopefully I'm not speaking too loud. It is, I do have my mic cutting out less of the sound than usual because I'm speaking very quietly, or relatively quietly at the moment. It's 3:14 a.m. and the folks that I'm next to are still sleeping, so I don't want to disturb them. So it is kind of a quiet stream. Sounds good to you? Good luck with your streams always. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I really do. I suppose I should take the time to say this now before I fight this boss. One thing about my streams is that I don't talk when a boss is on screen. So I'd like to get all my talking done out of the way. I do want to take the opportunity to thank you guys for your support, all the follows and stuff. Really appreciate it. If you like the content and you haven't done so already, like Eva Creatives Glenda has, consider leaving a follow and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss one of these. I normally don't stream at this hour. I'm usually a afternoon streamer. But, anything is possible given my current turbulence in life. And that's about all the shilling I'm going to do. If you don't mind me to ask, maybe I can help you out with Twitch graphics some more. I've been hunting around for someone in particular. However, I'm kind of picky about my style, and I'd be interested in chatting it up with you after stream if you're interested, which will cut off in 13 or so minutes. but I'm going for a somewhat between a fantasy and a photorealistic style for my Twitch graphics. So like if I show an emote here, I'll use one of my good ones. This emote in particular, it's stylized, but it is semi-realistic. I would want my other sorts of graphics to be in the same style as that one. I'm very picky about this because this is a brand I've been working on for a while. I'd say within the past year is when I'm finally settled on it. So if you think you can keep up with that, I'd love a discussion after stream. But for the time being, I'm going to focus on this boss fight. Like before, the Erdtree avatars, the normal ones, are susceptible to many status effects. Would you like to see my portfolio? If you want, you can whisper me on Twitch if you wanted to show this off right away, or if you give me again around 12 minutes. You and I can just discuss this in private, but I would love to take a look at it. The Erdtree avatar is kind of a part and parcel fight. It's reused a lot. You'll see what I mean. Our build is perfectly set up to take it down. And with that, I will see you guys after the fight. I do have a Discord. Can I get your Discord as soon as I finish this fight? Or, in a hot moment. I'll go ahead and DM that to you. That way not just anyone can have this. Let's see. Hang on, I gotta pull it up. That's not an easy thing for me to collect. I think I've spelled this correctly. It should just be this. Let me know if you didn't get that whisper, and I can just post that in the chat. And we'll go from there. I also need to log into my normal account while I'm right here. And of course, logging into my account means I actually need an Authy code. I have two-factor authentication for this sort of thing. Tag number. Okay, hang on. That response means I at least have the right person. It would be nice if I could actually see this. I've got streamer mode enabled. Let's fix this. Okay, here it is. It should be... Alright, that should be the correct tag. Let's see if we can knock out the Erd tree in 6 minutes. Not likely to happen, but worth a shot, I guess. I might be able to sneak... never mind. Nope. They could see through the pots. From request. I will accept that after this fight. Okay. And we've got the Cerulean Crystal Tier and the, oh, I just thought the Ruptured Crystal Tier. So if we wanted to have some extra FP, we have it. And the Ruptured Crystal Tier creates an explosion. So I mentioned that there were explosion builds earlier on. This would be how you'd get those. And I think we just managed to make it in time as well. Just great. Then I could sort of just funnel you guys off to Bob Ross or something along those lines. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. Really appreciate it. If you want to talk at me directly, Twitter is the best place to go to reach me. Discord also works. Twitter is preferable, however. You'll find those links in the About Me section. Okay, and I do have a pending one, which I will accept once the stream ends. Apart from that, direct support, apart from a follow, well, even that, a follow's free. Those are free ways to support the channel. But if you like to support me more directly by any means, I have links to those in the About Me section as well. They are under the Donations tab, just look there. I will be streaming Wednesday with some more Elden Ring, where we will pick up from where we left off tonight, or this morning, excuse me. And with that, I'm Coinstamp, and this has been another episode of Elden Ring Reforged. Stay safe out there. Know that you're welcome in our hallowed halls anytime. And with that, I will see you guys later. Take care, and bye-bye.